Folks, it's my coach used to say it's go-to time. It's go time now.
Welcome to the Kaya Olson Show. The National Republican Convention was held this week, and the production and speakers I thought were flawless. While the Democrats tore down America last week, Republicans held up our country as a land of opportunity. The array of speakers were compelling and thoughtful, and I wanted to take some time today to share some of my favorites from the week. Here is Maximo Alvarez, founder and president of Sunshine Gasoline Distributors, and a Cuban immigrant.
This is the greatest country in the world. And I said this before. If I gave away everything that I have today, it would not equal 1% of what I was given when I came to this great country of ours. The gift of freedom. Right now, it is up to us to decide our fate and to choose freedom over oppression. President Trump, he's fighting the forces of anarchy and communism. And I know he will continue to do just that. And what about his opponent and the rest of the DC swamp? I have no doubt they will hand the country over to those dangerous forces. You and I will decide. And here's what I've decided. My decision is very easy. I choose President Trump because I choose America. I choose freedom. I still hear my dad. There is no other place to go.
Florida Lieutenant Governor Jeannette Nunez had a similar message.
Fellow Americans, the fabric of our nation is in peril. Daily, the radical left systematically chisels away at the freedoms we cherish. They peddle dangerous ideologies, cower to global progressives, and normalize socialism to dismantle our Constitution. Let me assure you, socialism doesn't offer opportunity. Socialism deprives. It is a falsehood that feigns promises for its masses and consistently yields only misery. President Ronald Reagan warned, if we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. Truer words have never been spoken. Americans have a choice. We can go down a dark road of chaos and government control, or we can choose the path of freedom and opportunity that was paved by those who sacrificed everything to preserve the American dream for future generations.
That is the choice, America. 1,000 Kenosha's, 1,000 stories of thuggery and brutality and intolerant leftists who only want power. Power over you. Or freedom. Personal responsibility. Not the government lording over your life like Gretchen Whitmer is doing here in Michigan. Here's NFL great Herschel Walker.
It hurt my soul to hear the terrible names that people call Donald. The worst one is racist. I take it as a personal insult that people would think I've had a 37-year friendship with a racist. People who think that don't know what they're talking about. Growing up in the Deep South, I've seen racism up close. I know what it is, and it isn't Donald Trump. Just because someone loves and respects the flag, our national anthem, and our country, doesn't mean they don't care about social justice. I care about all those things. So does Donald Trump. He shows how much he cares about social justice in the black community through his actions. And his action speaks louder than stickers or slogans on a jersey. He keeps right on fighting to improve the lives of black Americans and all Americans. He works night and day. He never stops. He leaves nothing on the field. Some people don't like his style, the way he knocks down obstacles that get in the way of his goals. People on the opposing team didn't like when I ran over them either. But that's how you get the job done.
In addition to Herschel Walker, there were several other black Americans who offered personal testimonies and compelling arguments for re-electing President Trump. Here is Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron.
I also think about Joe Biden, who says, if you aren't voting for me, you ain't black, who argued that Republicans would put us back in chains, who says there is no diversity of thought in the black community. Mr. Vice President, look at me. I am black. We are not all the same, sir. I am not in chains. My mind is my own. And you can't tell me how to vote because of the color of my skin.
And Burgess Owens called out Joe Biden for saying you ain't black if you support Trump.
We have a Democratic candidate for president who says that I'm not black if I don't vote for him. Now more than ever, we need leaders who stand by their principles and won't compromise their values for political opportunities. Now more than ever, we need leaders who will stand up to the lawlessness supported by the radical left. This November, we have an opportunity to reject the mob mentality and once again be the America that my great-great-grandfather believed in. During the Trump administration, business ownership among blacks, Hispanics, and females have reached all-time highs. Those same groups enjoyed record-low unemployment and unprecedented prosperity, and we're just getting started. I'm running for Congress because we don't need more career politicians. We need a few more chimney sweeps. We need more leaders like President Trump who understand the freedoms that make up the fabric of America. My fellow Americans, specifically my Democrat and independent friends, it is now time for us to unite and put aside partisan barriers. Help us win back the House, keep the Senate, and give our president 4 more years, and I promise you, we will make you proud. Thank you, and God bless the United States of America.
Here is Sister Byrne on President Trump's record of protecting life.
Which brings me to why I'm here today. Donald Trump is the most pro-life president that this nation has ever had, defending life at all stages. His belief in the sanctity of life transcends politics. President Trump will stand up against Biden-Harris, who are the most anti-life presidential ticket ever, even supporting the horrors of late-term abortion and infanticide. Because of his courage and conviction, President Trump has earned the support of America's pro-life community. Moreover, he has a nationwide of religious standing behind him. You'll find us here with our weapon of choice, the rosary. So thank you, Mr. President. We are all praying for you.
The week was capped off by Ivanka Trump introducing her father. This, I thought, was her best line.
Washington has not changed Donald Trump. Donald Trump has changed Washington.
President Trump spoke the longest of any nominee ever during an acceptance speech. Joe Biden, incidentally, was one of the shortest. I think that's going to be a theme this campaign year. You could hear in President Trump's remarks he loves this country and believes our best days are still ahead.
At the Democrat National Convention, Joe Biden and his party repeatedly assailed America as a land of racial, economic, and social injustice. So tonight I ask you a simple question. How can the Democrat Party ask to lead our country when it spends so much time tearing down our country?
Answer that question, Joe Biden. You surround yourself with people like Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Ilhan Omar, heck, even Nancy Pelosi. None of them can find anything good to say about our country, and they want to lead it? Here was another great line.
Joe Biden's agenda is made in China. My agenda is made in the USA.
This is the clear contrast this election. Peace, freedom, and law and order, or 1,000 Kenosha's. Do you love your country, or do you want to fundamentally transform it into something our founders never intended? You get to decide in November. This is the Kyle Olson Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Kyle Olson Show. Donald Trump has sparked Americans of every stripe to get involved in politics, people who have never run for office before. Marjorie Green is running for Congress from Georgia, and she joins me now. So, Marjorie, maybe the best thing that stuck out to me in your experience is that you're a business owner. How can those skills be applied to running government?
Well, I think they're a very important skill to apply to running government. The government, if it were run like a business, first of all, we wouldn't have the huge debt that we have. We'd actually should be profitable, right? I mean, as a business owner in the commercial construction industry for almost 2 decades now, that's something that we have to work on. We can't run in a deficit, otherwise we go out of business. So if I were to run my business the way the government, Congress, produces budgets and runs the federal government, then I certainly would be out of business. And so I think these are important skills. Problem solving is another very important skill of being a business owner. Managing people, getting through good times and good economic times and bad times like recessions are a skill that I have that I've developed over the past 20 years. So I think these are critical things in leadership that members of Congress should have, and I wish more of them did.
Mm-hmm. You have been repeatedly attacked by CNN, NPR, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and a list of others. It says to me you must be doing something right, and you've got them scared. But why do you think that is?
Well, I'm a regular person. I'm someone that never, ever considered running for Congress. I never thought I'd be involved in politics. But the reason why I'm involved is because I supported President Trump, and I was very excited when we elected him, and we also had a Republican-controlled Congress under him for the first 2 years. But the Republican-controlled Congress didn't do the things that I thought were important, things like funding the wall. They didn't defund sanctuary cities. As a matter of fact, they funded them. They didn't defund Planned Parenthood. They funded Planned Parenthood for $500 million. They didn't repeal and replace or just repeal, period, Obamacare, which hurt my family very much. It took our health insurance premiums from $800 a month to over $2,400 a month. And so that's when I really started paying attention, and I thought if we had the perfect scenario in those first 2 years, a Republican-controlled Congress that should have accomplished amazing things under President Trump. And then something else happened is they allowed or stood by while this whole Russian collusion conspiracy theory just kept on festering to the point that Nancy Pelosi led the Democrats to impeach President Trump under her tenure. And then we saw this investigation continue and this to go on and on when we know it's not true. So, I'm convicted in my beliefs is that the federal government should be working for the people, and that's why I got involved. I'm unapologetic about my views. I'm 100% pro-life. I think we need to end abortion. I am 100% pro-Second Amendment, pro-gun rights, and I think the government needs to leave us alone and not touch our gun rights. I'm also I'm a Christian, and I have a strong Christian faith, and I'm very proud of that, and I want to have the strongest economy in the world because I've got 3 kids. 2 of them are in college, and one's in 11th grade, and I want them to have strong careers and a great opportunities to enter into when they leave. But I think the reason why the mainstream media, the fake news media, is attacking me is because they're really Democrat activists posing as journalists. And what they want to do is they want to push their policies through their platforms, which is the mainstream media. And when a strong conservative woman like me runs for Congress, and it's obvious I have no other agenda other than pushing the Republican Party to the right, holding people accountable, fighting back against Democrat socialism, and supporting President Trump, the president that I've supported from day one, that I think they're terrified of me. And so they're finding anything and everything they can to use against me, like maybe social media things that I posted at one time, which are, a lot, very much no different than a lot of maybe millions of Americans have posted and said the same things I've said.
Socialism. That contrast, I think, was perfectly on display this week during the RNC, where you had President Trump and the others holding up America as a land of opportunity, and you've had protesting and rioting and looting in places like Kenosha, Chicago, Portland, Seattle, and then, of course, this week, as people were leaving the White House grounds after the president's speech, people were attacked, people were harassed. So what do you think is at stake in this election?
I think everything's at stake. You know, when I started paying attention to what the Democrats were really doing, I started reading their bills. I started with gun control bills, and I read those, and I thought, wow, they're really going to take away our Second Amendment. I think that Save America, Stop Socialism is the defining phrase of where we are right now. The Democrat, if you read, I'll tell you what, President Trump mentioned it in his speech last night, is the Bernie Biden manifesto, the unity manifesto that they signed. It's 110 pages, and I think every single American should read it, because that'll give you a good look at what the Democrats want to do. I've read every page of it, and I'd already read those policies before. They're not new. This is not a new plan. These are the policies that Democrats have had for quite a long time. And this is what we have to stop. It's pure socialism, and you could even call some of it a tinge of communism. We definitely see that out of Antifa. That's their foot soldiers. Be it Marxist BLM, that's the foot soldiers also. And that's the radical left. And if this nation elects Biden, we're going to be electing a man who is clearly not able to think straight, probably suffering from dementia. I think it's clear to everyone. And we'll be electing Kamala Harris, a true radical leftist, into office. And who knows what else will happen from there. But we'll also be electing that Bernie Biden Unity Manifesto, which is the first thing they're going to do is pass the Green New Deal. They're going to enter into the Paris Climate Treaty, go right back into that. Biden has already said he's going to enter back into a deal with Iran. So we're going to turn the clock back straight into the Obama years, but even worse, it's going to notch it up and send us straight into these socialist policies. So I think this election is critical. It'll change our country forever, and we won't be able to flip things back to freedom, to free market, to the wonderful ways that we all know and love about our country. And I will not stand by and allow that to happen. That's why I'm running for Congress. I can't be complacent. I've got 3 kids that need a future, and I want it to be a future and a free America that's given me the opportunities that I've had. And so I think we've got to fight for it.
I think you're right. When you look at what Joe Biden and that 110-page document that he produced with AOC and Bernie Sanders, that's the direction that he is heading. And so when you hear John Kasich or Colin Powell or these various, pro-war Republicans who are coming out for Joe Biden and saying, oh, he's not going to go to the left, the John Kasichs of the world are not going to be in charge if there is a Joe Biden administration. It's going to be the far left. This guy's not going to be a moderate, and people need to realize that. But unfortunately, we're out of time. Marjorie Green, she's candidate in the Georgia 14th Congressional District, which is Northwest Georgia. Thanks for joining me today.
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
This is the Kyle Olson Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Kyle Olson Show. Urban Cure, or the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, recently launched a billboard campaign called Success Sequence. You decide if this message sounds controversial. It read, tired of poverty? Finish school, take any job, get married, save and invest, give back to your neighborhood. Those billboards were deemed racist, and Clear Channel Outdoor, the company that approved them and put them up in Milwaukee, has now taken them down. Star Parker of Urban Cure joins me now. So, Star, tell me about the point of the billboards.
Well, the point of the billboards were we as Urban Cure are an organization here in Washington, D.C. that fights poverty and restores dignity through messages of faith, freedom, and personal responsibility. And we do that in three places. We do it in public policy, working with legislators to try to dismantle the welfare state. We believe the answer to poverty is freedom and personal responsibility, not government manipulation out of Washington. We also do it in the media. We have blackcommunitynews.com, where we send messages into this community through our church network so that people will get a handle on news that is not filtered from the left. But we also work in poor communities. And in poor communities, we have over 1,000 churches in various hard-hit zip codes across the country that are really trying to make a difference in the individual people's lives who are hurt the most by these horrible policies that we've had since the war on poverty and the welfare state, the Great Society. Well, because the churches are closed across the country and we're in such a volatile time with all of the race riots, we decided to go and speak directly to the hearts of our youth, since we cannot utilize our pastors program to talk to the people that are laying there thinking, what in the world is going on? Mm-hmm. We to reach the one whose mom is on drugs, whose dad's in jail, who just trying to figure their life out. They're 12 years old, they're 15. Some of them are getting dragged into this whole Black Lives Matter rioting movement, going into the streets. So we wanted to speak specifically to them. We said, if you're tired of poverty, here's what you need to do. You need to finish school. You need to take any job. You need to work harder than the person above you on that job. You need to get married. You need to save and invest. You need to give back to your community after. We had a scripture, Proverbs 10:4. We had a beautiful young Black woman on some of the billboards. We had a young, beautiful Black male on other billboards. We had our website, /success. And if people went there, then we have a book campaign. We have books for each of those points for them to read so that they could really break out of poverty. We're talking about people whose neighborhoods are broken down, their schools are broken down, their homes are broken down. And Black Lives Matters just didn't like it. That Milwaukee Black Lives Matters went after our boards. And as you mentioned, they said not only they're racist, they're sexist, they told Clear Channel Outdoor that they will control messaging, that they will control narrative, and they put up the phone numbers of the local people there in the local office. They went and they terrorized those folks and threatened violence and threatened intimidation until the company pulled our billboards down. Breached a contract with us, not just breached a contract there in Milwaukee, they forced Clear Channel Outdoor to breach 3 contracts with us because we have billboards running in other communities as well.
So your billboards were approved by the company, obviously, because they put them up. What was your interaction with the company outside of just sort of the normal, approving the contract and all of that sort of thing? What was the discussion after all of this controversy came up?
Well, after the controversy came up, of course, they are distancing themselves because lawyers may have to be involved. Not just are they breaching a contract, but Black Lives Matters Milwaukee actually has violated the law. There are laws on the books, mostly because of terrorist activity of the past, whether it was KKK activity or whether it was mafia activity, that someone cannot interject themselves into someone else's contract. You can't go in and demand with a heavy hand that someone breaks a contract with another person. So their response now has gone quiet because I put them on notice that I'm looking at legal counsel. There's that I want the Black Lives Matters to determine who gets to speak into the heart of Black communities. There's no way that we as a society should allow them to get away with now saying that any advertising that needs their approval before that advertising company is not going to be able to accept what obviously Clear Channel Outdoor didn't have a problem with because they helped us in the designing of the billboards.
Interesting. And you're Black. Your organization focuses on empowering Black Americans. How can those billboards be racist?
Well, that's the interesting question that we have to ask ourselves about this word racism. And I'm going to try and encourage people that are so afraid of the word racism that they will not engage debate. Start looking at the word racism the same way that most African Americans view the N-word. That I'm not going to change my reality because somebody wants to call me out of my name. We have to really think about this. I'm not only Black, as you pointed out. I'm not only female, as they want to say that they're sexist. I'm not only spending my whole life's work in trying to really find answers for those that are in poverty. I also happen to be one who lived the life of what I was displaying on the billboards, reaching to the people that I was in that same seat. I was there at 12 years old, getting involved in criminal activity. I was there during at 14, getting involved in drug activity. I was there getting involved in sexual activity in and out of abortion clinic after clinic. By the time I was 20 years old, I was on welfare. I'd been in and out of welfare already. And then I spent my early 20s living on welfare completely until God just got a hold of my life and I turned things around. I'm in my mid-20s by then, and I was able to then recover myself, get off welfare with my little daughter and get her straightened out to where she's doing very well today. So I lived those principles. I ended up finishing school. I went even beyond finishing high school. I went and finished college. I took any job. After I left welfare, I remember I was working in the basement of a food distribution company because I had such a record that I couldn't go get a job, at McDonald's or anywhere else that they do background checks. I then began to organize my sexual behavior so that I would not have more children out of marriage and end up in much more despair. I learned how to save and invest, so I was able to build net worth to be able to then get one of the top of the line American Express credit cards, as well as have a very nice retirement that is coming my way because of my ability to be able to save and invest. And I do give back to my neighborhood. That is why I wanted to share those principles. Every book that I was pointing to, for those that went to the website, I've read those books. I know what Les Brown is saying to his keys to success. I know what Who Moved My Cheese is expressing and how that would help them in guiding them. I know every word of Gilder's book, Men in Marriage. In fact, mine is so tattered, I have to find a new copy. I know what God, Money, and Me is about. I've read that book. And in fact, that is my CPA who wrote that book. And I absolutely know Free to Focus and what Michael Hyatt, who used to run Thomas Nelson, wrote in his book. So yeah, Black Lives Matters is going to be in the hot seat because I think that they violated some real law here. We're in the process of hiring attorneys right now, and I hope that Clear Channel Outdoor has a change of heart and starts pushing back. We should really be concerned that these corporations are just rolling over to a Marxist terrorist group. That these guys are totalitarians and they are not pretending. And we have to get the corporations to get some backbone.
Right.
So stop being shaken down like this, or we're going to destroy our country. We're going to allow others to destroy our country just because we haven't pushed back. So at Urban Cure, we're pushing back. And that's why I appreciate that you would allow us to interview with you, because we want to get the message out. We're going to push these people back.
Absolutely. And you know what was interesting? There was a local TV station that was doing a report about the billboards and interviewing locals who were saying they interviewed a girl who said, I'm going to school. I want to make something of myself. I don't see any issue with this message. And there was another person that they talked to. Yes. And so as they are talking to these various local residents, they're taking down the billboard. So aside from what Black Lives Matter did and said, because they have a very political agenda, aside from them, what was the reaction in the community to the message?
I think that the sentiment of that young woman you just described, and the sentiment of that working man, he was, I think, a construction worker. He said, "No, you do take any job. If you just don't get in it, that's what I did." And that is the heart of Black America that doesn't get their story told. What we're allowing and have allowed for the last 50 years is a narrative to permeate mostly out of the Democrat Party, but also out of the Black left, that tells us that all Blacks are poor, that they're deserving of redistribution and reparations because the cards are stacked against them. And we rarely get the third of African American community voices that say that they're evangelical and conservatives. The 20% say that they're absolutely just conservative. We don't get their voices in the mainstream.
Dar Parker of Urban Cure, urbancure.org. Thanks for joining me today.
You're so welcome, Kyle. Thank you.
This is the Kyle Olson Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Kyle Olson Show. Absentee ballot counting was chaos in Detroit on primary election night a couple weeks ago. The Detroit News reported recorded ballot counts in 72% of Detroit's absentee voting precincts didn't match the number of ballots cast. Joining me now to tell us what he saw, as he was an appointed challenger and was at the TCF Center where ballots were being counted from 6:50 a.m. Election Day morning until 5:10 a.m. the following morning is Bob Cushman. So, Bob, briefly explain what your role was and why you were there.
Well, good morning, Kyle. My role was there as a legal election challenger, and my wife and I both got involved actually that day because I guess our biggest concern about the election coming up in November is election integrity. I think that's the most important thing, and it should be the most important thing to all of us. So we got trained, we got certified, and we went down and we were there a little before 7 a.m. on the primary election day.
And so both parties are allowed to appoint challengers who basically sort of monitor what's going on, and if you think that there's issues, you're able to flag that, and then the people overseeing the whole operation are able to intervene. Is that correct? So you signed an affidavit stating what you observed, and you would like people to see that, and it's basically your sworn testimony. So to the casual observer, what you put in your affidavit seems kind of horrifying. For example, you said that there was a car inside the building with Ohio plates. What was that about?
I don't know. We were told to take copious notes. I suspect that car was somebody that was delivering ballots. It just seemed a little odd. That's a car with Ohio plates was there, so I just wanted to document it. One of our primary instructions in our training was take copious notes. Mm-hmm. So I did my best in case that was a problem. Then that could be looked up and researched at a later date.
Got it. Several tables you wrote didn't have poll books. Why is that significant?
Well, as I understand it, the process for checking absentee ballots is a multifaceted thing, but probably the single most important thing, other than the checking of the signature itself, is making sure that the name is someone that's a qualified, real voter. And the poll books are names of people that are supposedly in that, they call them board, but the board is a collection of precincts, just to make sure they're real people that are voting and they only vote once.
So in your affidavit, you said workers were told at about 2 a.m. to just open the ballots and feed them through the machine without being verified. How many ballots would you estimate were counted after 2 a.m.?
This is just my estimate, but I would guess there were 10 to 20,000 ballots processed after 2 a.m. Could have been more. But the one thing I want to highlight is that my understanding of computers, whether you're taking a picture or saving a file, is that every single file, every single record has a time, date, stamp. And I would think that if this became a concern, and I certainly think it should be, that they go back to all the computer records, because every ballot was scanned, and identify the number of ballots that was processed before 2 a.m. and the number of ballots that was processed after 2 a.m. And it's my opinion, based on what I saw, that none of the ballots processed after 2 a.m. should count at all.
So set the stage. You're in the room. It's 2 a.m. I'm guessing you're exhausted. Other people working there are exhausted. Polls had closed, 6 hours before that? They're still counting. Set the stage and sort of explain what happened exactly at 2 a.m.
Well, to be precise, at approximately 2 a.m. on August 5th, 2020, a soft male voice from the PA system instructed everyone to stop what they were doing, open every ballot envelope, separate the ballots, and place them in a trays to go to the tabulators. Immediately thereafter, a second, firmer, louder, different male voice over the PA system repeated the instructions. During the time of the above two announcements, a statement was made over the PA system that we could either finish in 1 hour or 2 or 3 hours later. I do not remember which of the two male announcers made this comment. So based on the instructions that were given, and my observation was they were followed, all of the checking that had been taking place prior to that, which really slowed down the process, stopped. And so I don't think that there's any validity assured or any kind of, validity is, I guess, the best word, to the ballots that were processed after 2 a.m.
So you said just a couple minutes ago that you estimate 10,000 to 20,000 ballots were processed, not verified, not checked to ensure that those were, legal ballots, that those voters were eligible to vote, all of that sort of thing. That's significant because Donald Trump won Michigan in 2016 by 10,704 votes. So this election could be swayed by people just ignoring the rules and procedures in Detroit because they just want to go home. And if the state is won narrowly, and either incompetence or intent in Detroit sways the state to Joe Biden, that's not so easy to just reverse it, is it?
No, not at all. It's been my experience from everything that I've observed and what I've been told in the last month is that it's very, very hard to change, if not impossible, a result of an election after the fact because of some of Michigan's absolute crazy election laws. The one that's probably most extreme, as I understand it and have been told to by lawyers, and that is if the number of ballots that are reported don't balance with the physical number of ballots, there's an imbalance. If that happens, you can't do a recount, which is totally backwards from common sense.
So one of the Board of Canvassers said that this was a perfect storm, that there were not enough workers, that, there were more absentee ballots than they traditionally see, and in fact, 1.6 million absentee ballots were submitted for the primary, something like 3 times more than the normal. And so basically the system was not able to handle this, deluge of ballots. And even though this is the way the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, wants people voting. So you, through your affidavit and talking to me and others, you're trying to sound the alarm about what could happen in November. Do you believe the Wayne County Board of Canvassers and the Secretary of State will do what is sufficient to ensure that this won't happen again in November?
The quick answer is I don't have faith that it will. But perhaps if we raised enough, put enough light on the subject, that there could be enough heat to get it done correctly. And if there's one thing that I can state with absolute certainty from my heart, and that is the only way we're going to have any degree of integrity in the election in November is to get literally thousands of Michiganders to come out, work the polls, and work as challengers, work as inspectors. Some are paid positions, some are not. But the only way we're going to get it done is real-time intervention to keep this on track. Because we proved to ourselves that when we said, hey, wait, this isn't right, that the process stopped. And even though there were ballots that got processed before we noticed it, the process stopped until the poll book showed up.
So what can a person do if they want to help, if they want to volunteer? How do they do that?
We will be having information in the very near future about what email address and what organizations to send a person's name, phone number, and email address to in order to volunteer. I don't have that on my person right now.
Okay. But you've been doing this for many elections, haven't you?
No. This is the first time I've ever served as a challenger, so this is new territory to me.
So how would you describe what you saw there that night in Detroit?
Well, it was very disconcerting. In the first place, there were a lot of boards that were not popular with workers. We were told that about 75 workers didn't show up in the first place. I would estimate that there were somewhere in the vicinity of 600 to 700 workers working that night, but it should have been many times that number. And one of the additional things that I can note is I have a lot of good things to say about the workers. They were trying their best, but there were a lot of elderly workers. There were a lot of workers with obvious physical disabilities. And as time wore on, people started leaving. They couldn't put up with it anymore. They were getting tired. In fact, it got so egregious that somewhere in the vicinity of 6:30 or 7 p.m. that evening, they announced a $100 bonus just to stay. And then somewhere around 12:30 midnight or thereabouts, they came over the PA system, and they were very antagonistic toward the workers that were slowly leaving, walking off. And so that was a problem. And my own, if you were to ask me to guess, and this is a guess, I think the reason they gave the order to discontinue all the procedures at 2 a.m. Is probably because they had thousands and thousands of ballots left to go They didn't have enough people, and time was running out. I mean, we were all falling asleep and nodding off because we were there. Well, by 5 a.m., we were all there. The people that left, or stayed, I should say, were there 22 hours.
Mm-hmm. And it's stressful work. I mean, a lot of people, I'm guessing, were probably sitting down, but it's stressful work because you're supposed to follow a procedure. This is very serious business. You're talking, literally, you're holding people's votes in your hands, and it's very serious. Well, I give you a lot of credit for speaking out, releasing this affidavit, making sure that the Wayne County Board of Canvassers and the Secretary of State are aware of this, and we can only hope that they will take this seriously and do something about it so election night in November doesn't end in chaos. Bob Cushman, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Kyle.
Thank you so much for joining me today. For more of my work, go to Breitbart.com or find me on Twitter, Kyle Olson 4. Use the same handle on Parler, Kyle Olson 4, KYLEOLSON 4. This is the Kyle Olson Show.